breath. Hello, everyone. Welcome on into another Unapologetic Woman Hour, where I have deeper conversations about what it is to be a woman fully self-expressed. It's an honor to talk with the lovely Jeanne today, and I'm going to have her introduce herself in a moment. I really felt a deep connection to Jeanne the first time we met. We are a lover of meditation and mindfulness. And for many of you out there, you know that yoga and meditation is a very big part of my personal life and my professional life. And you also know me as doing things my own way, having experiences at retreats or in the yoga studio, or even just my little meditations. I find myself guided by spirit, guided by intuition, much more than guided by some kind of structure. And Jeanne has some amazing wisdom to share with all of you around self-compassion and how mindfulness can really be a part of that. And then also she's going to, at the end, just share with you a little more of how to get to know her. So without further ado, Jeanne, I would love for you to just introduce yourself to my audience and who you are and who you serve.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much, Tracy, and good to be here with your crew and meet everyone. My full name's Jeanne Lauren Smith, and I am the founder and facilitator of As You Are Mindfulness. So my history is a lifelong actor and a theater practitioner, and so in my own life, meditation and mindfulness were really transformative and just really supportive for me in my own journey of healing and dealing with just the stress of the lifestyle in New York and ups and downs and everything in between. So actually, when the pandemic hit, that was really an opportunity for me to really reassess and focus in on what kind of impact I want to make and what do I really have to offer. Like, what are the things that I love about acting and theater and community and connection that could expand into other areas, because that is something that I had really wanted for a long time, like creating more meaning in my day-to-day. And so deepening my meditation practice and learning the skills to facilitate it for others felt like very much the next natural step, like using that intuition that you're talking about. And really glad that I followed the breadcrumbs and did that teacher training and have been facilitating since that time. So over, online, and it's been just really amazing, especially during this time of isolation and so many people, going through so many different challenges, and just seeing like the deepening connection with themselves and with like the community that continues to be cultivated in that space. And it's really just like, a privilege to create space for people to engage with that practice, and then for them to really be their own teachers, like through the practice.
Yes, it's creating that container, that structure, so then they can be themselves within it. Yeah, and fellow theater lovers, that was really something profound. When Jeanne told me that, I was like, I went to undergrad for theater, and then I became a yoga teacher and a meditation teacher. It's like we were on similar paths, which I absolutely love. And I have found, having a background in a love of like the arts, it is something that can help facilitate in the deeper healing work. It's allowing people to, be expressive. The arts are about, self-expression. And I have found to be fully self-expressed, it means we have to allow ourselves to be nurtured and taken care of. And that's could be the people we spend time with, the things that we actually do, and then the way we spend time with ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? So for you, what have you noticed, whether it's something personally or with clients that you've had, about the relationship they have with self, and maybe some transformations your work has done for them, or challenges that they maybe overcame?
Yeah, I mean, I think for myself and for so many people, there's, such a theme of self-judgment and self-harshness, and even with meditation, like wondering if someone is doing it right or like, what am I supposed to be doing? And it's just really, so present, especially in our culture. And I think that the meditation really deepens that kindness with self, and it might start by just even recognizing that there is that habit of harshness, and there is like a lot of judgment and beating someone, beating themselves up and whatever, but like that awareness might not have been there without taking that time to actually sit with yourself and be with yourself and notice like what comes up and how do I relate to my mind wandering, or how do I relate to my back hurting, or whatever it is. And so starting with that awareness, and then inviting in these qualities of kindness and compassion and beginner's mind, letting go. And over time, it's like there isn't as much of a pull towards that harshness, and there isn't as much of a belief in that voice, and that there's like space for that to be there, but to say, okay, like I hear you, and I'm going to continue doing this the way that I'm doing it, and we're okay. And yeah, I really think that just like the basic mindfulness practice strengthens self-compassion when that awareness is brought into it. And then also these practices, the contemplative practices around compassion and loving kindness. Metta is a very popular meditation where we send well wishes to ourselves and to others in different categories of people. So like the neutral people in our lives we might otherwise ignore and not see. You bring someone like that into your mind and offer them your kindness from the heart of wishes for safety and happiness, wellness, ease. But that's an interesting one too, because oftentimes the hardest category for people is themselves. So
Right.
it's like, oh, it was like really difficult to send myself that kindness, but when I thought of a loved one, or when I thought of a neutral person, I could send it. But like, so just these ways of really like exploring our relationship with ourselves and finding like what is the way in. And like, with meditation, even like placing a hand over the heart, might be a way to like kind of soften the relationship with self, and to like start to take in that gentleness and that kindness.
Yeah. Yeah. It's everything you're saying. It really boils down to, and it becomes very specific of, to love ourselves, to be compassionate with ourselves, we have to be still with ourselves, because there's distractions everywhere. And that looks different for every person. I practice mindfulness techniques with all of my clients, where it's like, if you can't sit in some cross-legged position and, they always think you put your fingers in a weird way and you have to chant Om. It's like, no. It's really just being with self. And for you, it's just being mindful when you're washing your dishes or just vacuum your house. It's like, just be with self. And there can be these actions, this mindfulness we bring into it. And then meditation just goes deeper. I have found so many people have this misconceived notion, or they don't understand the difference between mindfulness and meditation. Have you ever gotten those questions, and maybe was there a way that you explained it to them?
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess I would say that like mindfulness is the umbrella, like you're saying, it invites in vacuuming, dishes, walking, turning the doorknob, and meditation is, kind of a formal practice and container for a period of time, basically with an object of mindfulness, an object of attention. The breath is a very popular object for people to bring their awareness to their breath, noticing when the mind wanders and coming back to the breath. In these contemplative practices, the contemplation would be the object of mindfulness, and whatever other form, mantras, etc. So yeah, that's how I would say like that mindfulness is really the overarching umbrella that includes meditation and includes walking and includes these other things. And meditation is like a formal practice, not necessarily sitting, could be lying down or standing or walking, but it's like its own practice, its own discipline.
Yeah. Yeah. We just did a tea meditation at one of my retreats, and people really enjoyed it because it was just that focus of, sipping the tea, feeling the tea coat, being aware of the thoughts that come up, being aware of your sensations. And I had so many people be like, oh, this is fun. Like, I never thought we could do things this way. And when I teach yoga, a lot of times I say it's just meditation in motion. It's like
Yeah.
just being mindful. And for me, my clients nicknamed me a while back Lucille Ball meets the Dalai Lama. And I was Lucille Ball before I found yoga and meditation. Like, I needed the Dalai Lama energy.
Right.
And I say right now, it's a privilege and an honor to be able to do work that actually helps me take care of myself. But the yoga and the meditation brought me back to the present moment. I had such a hard time staying present. And I find this for so many people, that they focus on how hard it is to be present, that there's no way they'll ever be present, because then they're focusing on not being present. Then they're focusing on the judgment of not being present. Then they're focusing on how they're feeling because they're judging themselves about not being present. And, that comes right back to the conversation we're having about compassionate with self. How do you help people to kind of get themselves out of that little bit of a whirlwind or the tumbleweed or the snowball effect? Because I find it can happen within an instant. We make a meaning about something in our mind, we start judging ourselves, and then it's like 0 to 60.
Yeah.
And we are all in self-loathing and judgment.
Yeah.
Is there any technique?
It's true. I mean, yeah, and I love that like we're laughing about it too, because it's like we can like laugh about this. It's like this is kind of a human response. It's like a natural condition, and doing the practices in the group context, I think is really helpful, because you hear other people's shares and like, oh, like they have that I have that, like I relate to this, and we can like see ourselves in each other's minds, and in that orientation of just like letting it spin out of control, and like noticing how quickly it jumps into that judgment, and that orientation of being hard on ourselves. So I think that I think that it's really important for me, and it has been helpful to others, to know that these things aren't like personal defects, and that there are reasons. Something that is really empowering to me is like the information around the negativity bias, and how we have been evolved to really focus more on the negative for our survival. And I think it's Rick Hansen said the term of it being like the positive is like Teflon and the negative is like Velcro. So it's like we have to just like have that awareness, and that it's like taking note with the positive or the beneficial emotions, and the times that we are kind to ourselves, like really letting that sink in, because it doesn't store in like that long-term memory the way that like negative experiences do. And I think that has a lot to do with like the negative self-talk, and just knowing that it's like those orientations are there for survival, or there for protection. So in whatever way, making friends with that part of ourselves, instead of like trying to bat it away, or being like just creating that snowball effect. So with that first impulse, if we can like notice and be like, yeah, it's okay, like this has been with me my whole life, and it's there to protect me, and I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, in my my life coaching training, the term they used was the critter brain, or it's a part of our brain that just it doesn't have any more information. It's a very like infantile kind of brain where things are very black and white. It's either I'm safe or I'm not safe. There's no in between. There's no logical brain to understand anything more. And so often, exactly what you're saying, I think people get stuck in is they think that this experience they're having is like the only person having this experience, and that it's not, it's just the way we're built. It is what it is. And it's just the behavior might look a little interesting, but it does have a positive intention for us. Like every part of our body, our mind, it wants us to stay alive. It wants us to thrive. It's just certain things have certain techniques. And we just, we have to allow ourselves to understand that's how we're built. We can't like rewire our brains. I mean, like for some people, they'd be like, just take that part out. I don't need that part. Just take it out.
Right. Yeah. Like it's interesting the discussion around like the rewiring because it's it's like creating new grooves, but it's not like getting rid of the old
Yeah, you can't
grooves.
just take the wiring out, but
Yeah.
you can with
Yeah.
exactly things that we're talking about here, like just being mindful, and being kind to yourself, um, really actually helps to create new pathways in the brain. Like it's super
Yes.
cool how our brain works. I mean, it's profound how our whole body really works, but our brain in particular, it can create new belief systems, and it literally creates new neural pathways in a different way than we had before.
Yeah.
It's pretty phenomenal, like what it can do. And so often we beat it down for the things that we don't like. Like come on, people, like this thing is like profound. This body,
Um,
this mind, and that I got the biggest when I was in massage school, and then yoga teacher training kind of took it to the next level of how profound our body is, and then our brain and our mind. Like it is amazing what it does. That I have found so often when people are struggling with challenges, and I'd love your input on this because I think it'll be a really great way to bring everything full circle, is so often when people are struggling with something, any challenge, it could be their weight, it could be depression, it could be a family issue, a work, a money thing, is just like you're saying, right? The Velcro of the negativity gets latched right onto it. And they, a lot of times, give themselves almost permission to behave the same way. It's like, well, the shame storm really comes on. Like they start to just shame themselves. And when we get stuck in shame, it's hard to really get out of it, because there's a really great quote that Brene Brown said, and it hit me really hard when she shared this, is feeling guilty about, like we're feeling guilty about ourselves, is linked to something we did. So I feel guilty, I left the dog in the car for too long. It's something we actually did. Feeling ashamed of ourselves is the feeling of judgment about who we actually are. It's not what we did. It's not a behavior. It's actually us, our entire
mm,
identity. And then what happens, that then creates behavior patterns in all of our life to not be good enough, to not be, beautiful enough, loving enough, whatever it is. That the not enoughness of that one challenge, say weight in particular, then starts to leak into the rest of our lives. And I think it's with consistent and persistent presence and mindfulness and self compassion techniques, is to me one of the strongest ways to get out of it.
mhm.
So I would love kind of your thoughts on that, like how to get out of that shame cycle, and how you've maybe noticed mindfulness work, meditation, and self-compassion can help.
Yeah. It also makes me think I heard a talk with Kelly McGonigal and she was talking about shame and she does a lot of self-compassion work through Stanford. But like how shame, doesn't motivate, like you're saying, and that the thing that can really help, like if there is something where it is something that you want to make a change with, like you want to get over a fear, or you want to, you know, incorporate movement into your life or whatever it is, to really be connected to what your values are and like what the intention is. And that was like really helpful. And I actually have a I have a block still that I'm working through, and a lot of fear around driving, because I moved to New York when I was 19 and I had a license before that. But then as my whole adult life has been in New York, so I was like, I don't need to drive. It doesn't matter. And meanwhile, you know, I didn't realize that one day I would want to drive. So like I had let my license expire, and it's been something like hanging over my head. So now this is like very recent. I just got my license again. But I was thinking about that, like her saying that, and because there was still like, you know, the block and the fear and the hassle and the having to kind of like relearn something as an adult and like what all of those things. But I was like, okay, like what is my intention? Like it's like I want to be independent. Like I don't want to be dependent on other people driving me around. Like I want to be empowered. I want to know that I can, you know, do this if there's ever an emergency, or if I need to do it for myself or whatever. So like that was really motivating, where I was stuck in shame around that, because it was like embarrassing, and it was you know, like just mad at myself for the past decisions I made and all of those things. So that really helped me. And I think that I was able to even take in that teaching, because like the mindfulness really invites us to be curious about those responses too. It's like that curiosity. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's this curiosity, being the observer.
Yeah.
It's, to me, I found one of the only ways to get out of shame
Yeah.
is just be in a state of curiosity, be in a state of observation, and not
Yeah.
attach meaning to it. Yes, I was like, I hope she says it. I know she will.
Ding, ding, ding. We got there.
So what are, just as we close out, what are some tips you can offer anyone that's listening to this to help them to be in that curious mind, to help them and be an observer, so that they can find more compassion through, you know, the ways that you teach of mindfulness and meditation?
Yeah, I mean, with the curiosity, I think just like inviting that in and knowing that like feelings aren't facts, thoughts aren't facts, and if there's like a loop that, you know, you're finding yourself in, just to have like that moment of recognition of like this is, you know, a downward spiral, and just being curious about where it's coming from. Is it true? And meditation is a way that helps you make a real practice out of that. And the more that you practice, the more it becomes part of your life. So anyone interested in meditation, I would say just starting with like a few minutes just for yourself. I started doing 5 minutes a day when I started a daily practice. And it might be, you know, difficult at first and awkward and whatever, but just like giving yourself that time and saying, I'm going to put the timer on, and whatever happens, I'm going to be here until the timer goes off. And that's a great way to start.
I like that. Yeah, 5 minutes. I say, if you don't have 5 minutes, you don't have a life. Yeah, I like that. So these are great little tips, everyone. If you're listening, allow the simplicity of the conversation we're having that is about complex, deep things seep in. That this is really simple. Like being present with self is in its own way so simple. Yet we, as especially, you know, adults, love, you know, when we're older, like children don't do this as much because they live in the curiosity mind more. But once we get older, we love to make everything complicated. We love to turn it into some drama that's not really there. So bring yourself just back to a state of simplicity. And I would encourage you, start trying to be mindful 5 minutes a day. Set a timer. There's apps out there. I know, you know, Jeanne probably also herself has some resources that I'm going to have her share in a moment, and find it as just a space in your calendar, just like you brush your teeth, you take a shower, you go to the bathroom, you sit for 5 minutes. It just becomes something. And once you start doing it, I know you would agree with this, Jeanne, it just becomes second nature. Like then it's like, for me, I get up, I get out of bed, I go to the bathroom, I do a little movement and I sit.
Yeah.
It's for me, it's second nature now. Now, if I have a busy day, maybe I don't sit for as long, but it's something that I do. And what happens is each day I actually do that. Each day what we're talking about here is just one act of self-care, but each day I do it, it strengthens my integrity of self.
Yes.
And all of you out there, when you have a strong integrity of self, the other stuff doesn't phase you as much. It keeps you grounded in your own love of self. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's so strong. I love that word, integrity, and that builds up the joy for yourself, because it's like thinking of something like, oh, I sat today, or like, oh, I did this, and that like letting that be a source of joy, that integrity.
Yes. And then you can celebrate yourself more. And the cool thing is, everyone out there, once you start celebrating yourself more, your loved ones celebrate you more. So it's like they start loving you more, you love them more. It's very infectious, and it's a lot better than the shame storm, right?
Yes.
Yes. So let's find our way back to the self-compassion party and out of the shame storm. And I know you have different ways in the work you do to offer people mindfulness meditation. So I would love for you to share your website and any other way that people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, on all social media, I'm there, my full name, Jeanne Lauren Smith, and the mindfulness is As You Are Mindfulness. So that has an Instagram page and a website, asyouaremindfulness.com. So definitely feel free to reach out to me directly or check out those materials. And yeah, I'd love to support your practice in any way that I can.
Thank you, Jeanne. It's been an honor to chat with you today. And I love to close these out by asking this question to everyone, but what does unapologetic mean to you, to be unapologetic?
I think I love the word authenticity. So I think being unapologetic is really an expression of being your authentic self in whatever circumstance. And yeah, really just having that full expression and allowing your unique expression to come out.
I love that. Well, it's been an honor to talk about being unapologetic with self-compassion, and it's a great way to close out with everyone just out there being more authentic. Thank you, Jeanne. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And I probably know that there are some up and coming things coming up. So before we do close out, do you have anything coming up or a free gift that you would want to share with anyone that's listening on in currently?
Yeah, well, on the website, there's a link to my calendar for half-hour connection sessions. So I'd be happy to offer anyone, time with me to talk about what we just talked about, and I could share a practice, with you, depending on what you're going through and what you're looking for. And coming up, I have a 12-week class series on mindfulness, compassion, and action. And that starts on February 12th. It's going to be Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 12:30. And I have an ongoing drop-in class as well, and ongoing silent practices as well. So reach out to me, and be happy to let you know about any of those offerings.
Yes, that's great. And anybody out there, it's the practice of doing things by yourself is great, but having a facilitator like Jeanne or myself, it can really help to build the habit of doing it for yourself. So I definitely encourage you out there to check Jeanne's information out. You're going to see her popping in to my community this year. She's going to be one of my wisdom women of the year. So you'll definitely see more of Jeanne. And for any of you out there, before I close out, we have a few up and coming events that would pair extremely well. I think if Tracy and Jeanne just supported you for the next quarter, all of you would be amazing. That's all I'm gonna say. We have it's a sacred self-love event on the full moon on the 16th. And we're going to actually be working with our sacred space collection boxes The one we'll be working with is the box's theme is surrender. The boxes include crystals, oils, sage, maybe other things like that, and so much more to help you to use items to enhance just what we're talking about today. Using items to really enhance the ritual of mindfulness can be really helpful for people to kind of get on in and get comfy in their presence. So we're going to do a great little event. You'll see information about that, but it's right after Valentine's Day. We're going to work on loving ourselves a little bit more. And then coming up on the 28th of February through March 11th, we are facilitating a Wise and Well Woman Summit. I'm going to be having conversations with 17 women about their journey of accessing their own wisdom and what wellness really means to them so that they can create a legacy in their life. So they're going to be great conversations. They're going to be very similar to what we're doing here today. Having you have an opportunity to listen to stories can be really transformational in setting the stage for your own personal growth. So I'm going to tell you, I'll save the date for that. We'll have information more. And then Jeanne, I'll have you for those of you that are out there in the Facebook land, if you want to drop your website when you have a chance into the conversation in the Facebook group, that'd be awesome so they can find ways to reach out to you as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yay, we have some great stuff coming up, ladies. So hopefully we'll see you in one of my experiences, as well as in one of Jeanne's experiences, and go out there and be your unapologetic self. Be well, everybody.